Before the discovery of the effective formula to pit multiple kaiju against each other in extravagant battles, Toho Company was experimenting with standalone films featuring different kaiju. They made 4 films between 1954 and 1961 with giant monsters as the central subject, and also the title character, 3 monsters of which went on to become international stars with multiple appearances in future films, namely Rodan, Mothra, and the beloved king of the monsters, Godzilla. Today, we are going to talk about the 4th kaiju from Toho's initial experiments to get left behind in popularity from the film franchise, but however managed to make other appearances in different media, Varan. The Triphibian monster appeared in the 1958 Toho film Varan, which was heavily re-edited and retitled as Varan the Unbelievable for its American release, so let's dive into the monster's origin story and see how he did in his later appearances.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Tracing the sinister origins of Varan, as seen in the events shown in the 1958 film Varan following the death of her brother from the landslide caused by the local mountain god Baradagi, reporter Yuriko Shinjo traveled to the remote village of Iwaya with photographer Horiguchi and Kenji Ozaki, a pupil of Professor Sugimoto, to investigate the incidents. Ozaki convinces the villagers that Baradagi is merely a superstition and that they should all follow Yuriko out of the village boundary to find her son, who wandered off behind his dog. He is immediately proven wrong when a giant, colossal reptilian monster rises from the nearby lake, rampages the village, and kills the village elder attempting to placate the monster. Ozaki recognizes the creature to be a Veranopod, a giant reptile who lived from the Triassic through the Cretaceous period, who had escaped extinction and lived for millions of years at the bottom of a lake in the Japanese countryside, subsequently leading to the villagers believing that he is a god and earning the title of Baradagi, the Mountain God. In another Toho film that was released in 1968 titled Destroy All Monsters, Varan is seen as one of the several kaiju living in Monsterland at the end of the 20th century, who gets neglected by the invading aliens known as Kilax, but is summoned for battle by humans at the foot of Mount Fuji to destroy the aliens' base of operations. The terrifying saga of Varan, unveiling the reign of terror. Varan, who had just killed the village priest, destroys the village before returning to the lake he had come from. In the wake of the attack, the JSDF arrive at the scene and forms a defense line surrounding the lake. The military troops open fire on Varan by shooting chemical shells into the lake with mortars. The attack had no effect on Varan, who shrugs off the military firepower and chases behind Yuriko and Kenji. The JSDF, in compliance with Professor Sugimoto, then fires flares to distract Varan and lure him away, but the monster steers away from the lake and ends up climbing to the top of a cliff, after which Varan opens large membranes under his arms and takes a dive off the cliff, gliding across the sky and towards the ocean. The monster splashes into the sea and begins approaching Tokyo, when the air and naval units of the JSDF deploy countless destroyers and bombers to try and stop Varan, but their attacks do little to slow the beast's advance. Eventually, Varan surfaces from Tokyo Bay and makes landfall, attacking Haneda Airport. The JSDF takes yet another shot at attacking Varan with all of the available artillery and jets at their disposal, but still stands unable to harm him. Varan destroys a truck containing experimental explosives, which triggers an explosion that seems to visibly harm him. This gives the JSDF an idea to harm Varan from the inside, following which they quickly tie 2 of these explosives to flares and then drop them off from helicopters, knowing Varan would eat the said flares. Just as planned, Varan swallows the flares, and the first bomb explodes inside him, mortally wounding him and prompting him to crawl back into the ocean and disappear beneath the waves before the second bomb explodes, producing a small mushroom cloud over the water. The JSDF triumphantly then finally declares the creature dead. The lethal power of Varan, exploring the powers and abilities. Varan is a Triphibian creature, meaning that he is capable of movement on land, underwater, or in the air. He can crawl across solid land with ease on all his limbs, resembling a reptile. Varan remains submerged underwater for long periods of time, maybe even millions of years, when he skipped extinction, initially spending his time sleeping under a lake. Later in the film, Varan makes his way to Tokyo by swimming through the ocean, covering a great distance in very little time whilst evading the JSDF JSDF's naval assault. Varan's hide is extremely durable and is least likely to be penetrated by any known conventional weapon, granting him an immense advantage against the JSDF artillery. Dr. Sugimoto and Kenji Ozaki proposed that Varan's durability comes less from the thickness of his skin, but rather from his flexibility, which allows him to withstand impacts from projectiles and explosives. His immense strength means he can effectively crush structures using his arms, legs, and tail, and most unusually, Varan is capable of gliding flight. A light skin membrane that unfolds between both his arms and legs lets him leap into the air and glide across the sky like a flying squirrel, sometimes reaching the astonishing speeds of Mach 1.5, the same flight speed as the rodent from the Showa era. In the video game Godzilla Unleashed, Varan's gliding abilities allow him to perform acrobatic martial arts style moves. He can also spit a pink sonic beam from his mouth, which was stated in the game to be used by him to communicate over great distances, but these same sonic waves could be weaponized into a proper beam which can disrupt an opponent's sense of balance. Comparative Might, where Varan stands among Monster vs. Legendary Titans. If Toho's Varan was to be pitted against Monster vs. Legendary Titans, say the mighty king of the monsters Godzilla himself, he wouldn't be expected to last long in the battle. His tough exterior hide might provide him with sustained defense for some time in close-quarter melee combat against Godzilla's fierce claw attacks, but the Monster King's devastating atomic breath is no match to Varan's skin. Even on his best day, he might survive to fight another day provided he glided away from Godzilla before he could charge his atomic breath attack, but he would need to strategize accordingly and move quickly as the king of the monsters is not known to show mercy once the battle conch is blown. However, the ability to glide in the air at high speeds might give Varan an advantage against the mighty Kong from the Monsterverse, if they were both to find themselves on the battlefield facing each other. Varan's thick skin might also come to his aid when fighting the giant ape monster and sustaining the physical damage caused by Kong, but it would be foolish not to take Kong's impressive agility and advanced intelligence into account. Mind-blowing appearance of Varan in other forms of media. Although Varan's main appearances seem to be featured in the video games, the most noteworthy ones being his boss character appearance in Godzilla Monster of Monsters and as a playable warrior in Godzilla Unleashed. He has also made appearances in 3 picture books, 2 children's novels, and a young adult novel Godzilla 2000. He has also appeared in the manga adaptation of his movie, plus tie-in manga for Destroy All Monsters and All Monsters Attack. Varan had more luck with picture books than his movies, appearing in other 5 comic books across the late 60s and early 70s. In Godzilla Monster Apocalypse, an individual designated Varan II attacked Los Angeles in the year 2030 alongside Baragon II and Anguirus IV, who were ultimately attacked and stopped by Godzilla with a single blast of his atomic breath in the Pacific Ocean. The future of Varan in the Godzilla universe. Varan has proved his abilities with his video game appearances and stands as a viable character that could be in line to receive a reboot. With the usage of modern visual effects technology, the possibility of a reimagining classic old kaiju in an entirely new form has never been more accessible, and Varan could be a reasonable contender. With his amphibious nature that allows him to conquer all types of territories, it would be very fresh to see Varan go against Godzilla and give the king of the monsters a hard time. His pink sonic beam would be a sight to behold in action as he glides above cities, raining down destruction upon them as he does, just like we have seen Rodan do in the 2019 film produced by legendary Godzilla King of the Monsters. Marvelous verdict. It does not always have to be a cameo or an antagonist role for Varan. His exploration video has brought light to the fact that Varan's lore and his abilities carry the classic kaiju flavor beloved by fans and deserve to be the frontrunner for upcoming kaiju projects, maybe even a standalone project featuring just Varan, the dormant sea monster worshipped by the nearby villagers as the mountain god, who terrorizes the villagers when they anger him. Throw in a Godzilla to teach the monster a necessary lesson, and there you have a hit movie. Thank you for watching Marvelous videos. Stay tuned for more Kaiju Explorer videos.